Do I need therapy? Do I need therapy? Oh my God, my husband just brought me this popcorn and it is so good. Do I need therapy? The answer for me is yes. Therapy is a big part of how I maintain my mental health. This video was inspired by a question from a parent of a child with fetal alcohol spectrum disorder. Am I the only one that feels like I need therapy to deal with my child's needs? I keep bringing him to his counselor, feel like I could use an hour to process what we go through as part of parenting him. You are definitely not alone. A lot of parents raising kids with disabilities, with trauma, special needs, or mental health disorders often need therapy themselves in order to be a parent for that child. There's a great video by Katie Morton that talks about the 5 signs that you need therapy. She talks about how one of the signs might be if you are losing your temper, feeling overly emotional. And if you have a child with a disability, it is even more important that you keep a very stable affect as much as possible. Imagine that you need to be balanced as a parent, but as a parent with a kid with a disability, you are trying to walk on a tightrope and be balanced. And it's so much more important because often our kids co-regulate because they can't regulate themselves. Their emotional regulation actually comes from us. That can be extremely draining. So I started therapy in 2006. I was 28 years old. I was an assistant principal and found myself working for someone who was harassing the staff and harassing me as well. It was an extremely difficult situation. It got to the point that I didn't even want to get out of bed in the morning to go to work. This had been my dream job. Needless to say, I really needed therapy to just navigate a way through. That opened the door for me, and I've used it personally off and on ever since. And there have definitely been times where it wasn't needed, and then there are other times where it is. Okay, by the way, totally off topic, but I colored my hair today, and I don't know about you, but I always find the first day it looks a little off. So I'm slightly nervous that it's more red than brown, which was not my intention. Comment below for me. Tell me, too red? Will it settle? I don't know. I'm still putting out the video. So yeah. Comment below. Okay, that reminds me. It is really important. If this video is helpful, hit the thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel. Both help people find my videos when they are needing this content. Commenting also helps my channel grow. So whether you're commenting about my hair or about therapy, or that you totally disagree with me, it still helps my channel. So please comment below. My husband and I experienced something extremely difficult within the first month of our marriage. That got us into couples therapy. When we started, our goal was to protect our marriage from this external factor. That is still our primary goal, but we have found multiple times that we've been so thankful that we already had a system set up. Having it in place helped us deal with my husband's MS diagnosis, which came after we had been married only 1 year. Which then impacted our parenting plan, which led us to foster care, which led us to some heartbreak. All of those things, we were really glad that we already had therapy in place. I also know that therapy isn't for everyone. There are people who say exercise is my therapy, going and getting a pedicure is my therapy, a spa day is my therapy. Those things are great to do and they absolutely contribute to your mental health. They are not a replacement for therapy. Therapy is where you process. So you might be processing things from your past that are affecting who you are today without you even knowing it. You might be processing something you're going through right now, but having a neutral person is going to help you find the best solution for you so you can literally become the best version of yourself. That might mean you are the best parent to your kids, but But it starts, in my opinion, with you being who you want to be. When you are parenting kids with special needs, then absolutely being the best parent you can be is essential as well. You also discover areas that need improvement. For parenting my child who it also has fetal alcohol spectrum disorder, as well as parenting my children who have trauma through their experience in foster care, I do need therapy. I need our marriage counselor so my husband and I can discuss the different parenting styles and how to support each other when we go through some unexpected challenges. 2 of my kids have their own therapists who also work with my husband and I. And what we do is we tweak what we're doing so our parenting best matches the needs of our child. Sometimes those needs shift, and having an expert in the area of mental health and trauma is extremely helpful. We do have a lot of therapy. So we have 2 kids in therapy. My husband and I both have our own individual therapists, and we have a marriage counselor. That might sound like a lot. In addition to all of that, I also am part of a support group for kids with fetal alcohol spectrum disorder, which I highly recommend. Comment below and I will send you the link. Jeff Noble is amazing, has dedicated his life to learning and spreading the word about FASD. His work totally changed our approach to parenting. Definitely check out his podcast. I also have friends that I can call. Just this weekend, we went through something. We had been dealing with it off and on. All of a sudden this weekend, it's like I hit a wall and I was frustrated. Okay, I'll just tell you the story. My kids were riding bikes and one of my children has some physical delays in addition to some cognitive delays and some emotional regulation struggles. The combination of all of that exploded this weekend when the kids were riding bikes. He couldn't keep up with his siblings. He got aggressive. He had to be separated. We had to do some repair. And I just felt like, is this the best we can do? And so my husband and I called a friend of ours who we were able to just talk through. Do we need to get him a different type of bike so he can keep up? Do we need to process more with him about how his behavior affects his siblings and how other people's feelings are also important? How other people's feelings are also important. Do we need to divide and conquer and just keep the kids separate? We were able to basically come up with a plan that was a combination of all of those things. And essentially, my husband is going to speak with my son's physical therapist on what they recommend for a specialized bike for him, if anything, to really help with his physical delays. In addition, we are going to continue to work with him on how his behavior impacts his siblings, reminding him what type of relationship he wants to have with them, bringing him into the conversation. Having somebody that I could call that my husband and I both felt supported by and that we trusted, that is huge. I also don't see that as a replacement for all the therapy that we're doing. In fact, the conversation gave me more things to bring to the therapist and more specific questions to ask the experts. The other thing I decided through that conversation was to treat my son as though he has autism. Trauma mirrors autism. Fetal alcohol spectrum disorder sometimes mirrors autism. My son that has trauma, has fetal alcohol spectrum disorder, has a genetic abnormality, has developmental delays, has a cognitive impairment. His behavior mirrors autism. Now, if I had a child with an autism diagnosis, I wouldn't do things without having my toolkit right with me. For example, I wouldn't take him on a hike and expect him to be able to do it without going through a social story first. I'm just going to keep my tools more available so I have easier access. When my child struggles, I have my go-tos right there. Remember my video about teachers and trauma training and how teachers need a toolbox that's available? Parents need it too. My toolbox was developed through work with my child's therapist, through work with my friend, through my own personal therapy. When I started EMDR therapy, which has been an amazing tool for me. I never knew I would even qualify. EMDR is eye movement desensitization reprocessing. I had heard about it from the Mental Illness Happy Hour, my absolute favorite podcast of all time. I always thought it was for someone who had been through something extremely traumatic. I wouldn't have defined my professional history as extremely traumatic, but when I was assaulted at work in 2016, my reaction to the assault, now being assaulted is traumatic, but my reaction went above what the situation called for. Even a week later, I couldn't discuss it without raising my voice, yelling, getting mad, starting to cry. And so my marriage counselor recommended EMDR therapy. Once I started, I realized I had 10 years of professional abuse that I had not processed. And I'm eating popcorn. Once I started unpacking some of the harder times, there were weeks that I just had to feel my feelings. So absolutely, if you are not in a place where you can take the time to do that, then it might not be the best time to do therapy for you. But I would say, then what will you do? What will you do to help with what your child is going through? The parent who asked this question has a child with fetal alcohol spectrum disorder. It's really different for all parents, but it is permanent brain damage that has an impact. If you are hesitant to do therapy, or if you've tried it and it doesn't work, then figure out what will work for you. What is a way that you can process and figure out how to parent this child. One thing that my therapy really helps with is that I don't spiral into negative thinking. So take that situation I described from this weekend with the bike riding. In the past, I might have seen it as, oh my gosh, I'm a horrible parent. I didn't stop my kids from getting scratched by their brother, from getting yelled at by their brother, from feeling scared. I didn't protect them. I'm failing. I didn't deserve these kids in the first place. I'm a fraud. I never should have called myself the trauma mama when I know nothing about trauma, on and on and on. But because of my therapy, I was able to recognize that I needed to make a plan. Now, I am someone who used to skip feeling a situation and jump to making a plan. And honestly, my son's therapist still calls me on this sometimes. Like, are you jumping to a plan? Have you felt your feelings? Don't worry, not all therapists talk that way. If you're not ready and if that language isn't for you, find the right therapist for you. But my son's therapist, having that said to me, it works because yeah, sometimes I do skip to making a plan and I skip through feeling my feelings because I'm avoiding it. It's uncomfortable. And what can happen is then sometimes I pull my husband along and I don't let him feel his feelings and I'm not a good support to him. I highly recommend therapy. I hope you also understand if it's not for you. I totally get it. But if you watch Katie Morton's video and it speaks to you, then maybe give it a try. If not therapy, then what? All right, tell me, what is your go-to? Is it therapy? Is it support groups? Is it watching YouTube channels and soaking up all the info? Is it exercising? Is it self-care? Is it calling a friend? Comment below. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great week. I'm going back to eating this popcorn because, yeah, my husband makes the best popcorn in the world, for real. Bye.